All right, guys, so we're going to do this foldable right here. So the first thing we need to do is cut off around here and cut all the excess off. Okay, so now that you've cut all the excess off, there's this little rectangle up here that says cut out this square and throw it away. So why don't you go ahead and cut that square out? All right, now that you've cut this square out right here, there's this dotted line right here, so you are going to fold it like this to where this piece here is on the front. Right, so now you should have something that looks like this where the flap comes open. Now you want to cut each one of these, make sure you kind of open it up, don't cut all the way through, but you want to cut each one of these lines so that you can open it as a flap to see what's underneath it. So once you're done cutting and folding, you should have something like this where you can open each flap and see what's underneath it. Now, let's start writing or looking at what goes inside and how everything goes together. So the first flap we have is the addition property of equality. Now, when you open the flap, this is what it tells you. If A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. So notice, all we did is added C to both sides. So if we were putting this into words, I would say we can add the same thing to both sides of the equation and it will remain equal. Okay, we can add the same thing to both sides of the equation and it will remain equal. All right, now the subtraction property of equality is kind of the same thing. If A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C. So this says we could subtract the same thing to both sides of the equation and it remains equal. Okay, now multiplication property of equality, same thing. You open this flap, this is what it tells you. If A equals B, then A times C equals B times C. So we can multiply the same thing to both sides of the equation and it will remain equal. All right, last, if the division property of equality, if A equals B, then A divided by C equals B divided by C. So we can divide the same thing on both sides of the equation and it will remain equal. Okay, so those are kind of the four big ones, at least the operational ones. And there are four more other very, very common ones that we will be using quite a bit. All right, so the four other ones, the first one is the substitution property of equality. And if you open the flap, this is what you'll get. We use this a lot when we solve for x. So if I say 3x plus 8 equals, I don't know, some number, and then I go and I solve it and I say, well, x equals 5. Okay, what we would do here is now we would plug x. We'd plug 5 in for every x, so it'd be 3 times 5 plus 8, which is 15, plus 8, which is 13. This would be the substitution property of equality. Okay, so if two values or things, I'm going to put things, if two things are equal, we can substitute them for each other and the equation will remain equal. All right, now let's look at the transitive property of equality. So when we open the flap, this is what we get. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So notice we have a B here and a B here, okay? So both A and C are equal to B. So if A and C are equal to B, then they have to equal each other. Okay, so in words, I could say if two things are equal to the same thing, then that should be an if, then they are equal to each other. And guys, we'll do some examples of these, and it'll make quite a bit more sense. All right, the reflexive property of equality, guys. A equals A, B equals B, C equals C, angle 1 equals angle 1. Anything is equal to itself, okay? This seems ridiculous right now, and I get it. You're thinking, why the heck do we need to know that? But the fact is, we will use this quite a bit in a coming up chapter. Like, this will end up being your best friend. So just know anything is equal to itself. So when you're using the reflexive property of equality, your left side of the equation, your right side of the equation are the exact same. All right, last we have the symmetric property, and this just says if A equals B, then B equals A. So we can switch the sides of the equal sign, and it will still remain equal.